Being compliant is just straightforward. Being maliciously compliant? Well, that's another story. Welcome to this episode of Malicious Compliance. Our first one is from Frantic Pedantic. Years ago, I worked in a semi-public sector job as part of a successful team helping make life easy for local businesses. Our team boss took a good job in the private sector, and a new boss was recruited from a decent organization similar to ours in a different part of the country. She worked compressed hours, Monday to Thursday, and was off on Fridays. A month or two in, and although the new boss was quite particular about things being done her way, and had upset a couple of my colleagues by criticizing their work, I'd had no problems with her. We had a team meeting where the boss said that our performance wasn't good enough, we were arguably the best in the country, and that she wanted to be more involved in what and how we did everything to ensure better quality, and so we should copy her to every client email so she could comment as needed before we sent another reply. Although this seemed inefficient, nobody argued, and I just asked her if I should wait until Monday for her to comment on any client emails received on a Friday. I can't remember exactly what she said, but at the end of the meeting, she asked me to stay behind and told me in a heated tone that my question was bullying behavior, that it was unprofessional to ask a question in front of the team, and said that my actions were the sort of thing that HR would see as grounds for dismissal and that I should be very careful in the future. I told her I understood, and we returned to our desks where I wrote up every single detail of the entire meeting and interaction, and sent it to the head of HR with the explanation that as bullying was very serious and may not be reported by the victim, I felt duty-bound to report myself. I also laid it on pretty thick about being appalled by my unprofessional behavior and the fact that my career was likely at risk, and I clearly had a desperate need for training and discipline to fix my dangerous ways. I also copied in my union rep. Within a day, my union rep and my boss were with the head of HR, who, being a by-the-book professional, could find no indication of bullying or justification for my fears of being an unprofessional bully in need of re-education. I was asked to leave the meeting. My union rep stayed in, and I don't know what was said, but within 6 weeks, my boss was gone. And that same week, my weak and defective but likable big boss called me in to thank me, as he had wanted to get rid of her, but had not known how. Well, it seems like that new boss that came in, while the OP maliciously complied and most likely cost them their job, they didn't really seem to know their job, their company, or even HR to begin with. This next one is by Flossing Horse 741. I booked accommodation 2 months in advance for St. Patrick's weekend in Dublin. It was a fairly ancient bed and breakfast, but for €115, it was a place to sleep and the cheapest option for the busiest weekend of the year in Dublin. It was one double bed for me and a buddy to share. It was pay on arrival. 3 weeks before the stay, the accommodation manager messaged me on the app I booked the stay on, telling me there's a problem. I can no longer stay and to cancel on my side immediately. No apology, let alone help offered by them. This was followed by multiple calls daily, along with text messages and a harassing nature saying I need to cancel now so I can get my money back. Once again, it was pay on arrival. I didn't answer the calls or messages telling me to cancel. Something felt off, so I checked the listing for the night I was supposed to stay, and it just so happens the accommodation had been listed again, for double the price. Likely the manager realized St. Patrick's weekend was a cash grab. Maybe not immediately, but at the property manager's request, I simply rang Booking.com and told them I'd like to cancel my booking. The customer service rep asked why I was canceling. I explained in detail all the above to her, and things took an unexpected turn for the property manager. Ultimately, the rep agreed that the property was acting in an unfair manner, and the solution was that Booking.com would find me accommodation within 1 kilometer. Originally, they tried to get me to stay way outside of the city, but I wasn't having it, of where I intended to stay. The original property would then be liable to cover any difference in cost. Here's the good part. Finding accommodation 3 weeks before St. Patrick's Day in Dublin is about as difficult as trying to light a fire with flint and steel in the rain. Near impossible. Everything within a 1 kilometer range was booked out, except for a well-known 4-star hotel. The room alone cost €350 per night and had 2 double beds, much bigger room, and in a nicer location. The customer rep had to get it cleared by her team lead, so I just sat on hold doing chores for 25 minutes. Eventually they came back and said it was all signed off on and they'll send me a special link. What a treat. I'll gladly accept their compromise. This in turn meant that the property owner that tried to force me to cancel on my end was now indebted €235, and we got a massive upgrade for the same price we originally had. I had to pay the €350 up front and had to keep receipts to show proof of payment to the booking partner after our stay, but I got my refund of €235 the following week. This is absolutely beautiful. I mean, the property deserves it. They wanted the OP to cancel so they could raise the price. In the end, their raised price isn't going to end up offsetting what they have to pay to ensure OP can stay somewhere else. It serves that property right. And our final one is from Jimol. I worked in the engineering department of a smaller manufacturing company, around 70 to 80 employees. My responsibility, among other things, was to handle any design changes, edit part and assembly drawings, bills of materials, etc. Previously, this was all handled by putting together a packet of actual paper documents that had to be shuffled from engineering to manufacturing, sometimes ping-ponging back and forth if we were doing something complicated that required input from various people within those departments. Eventually, the company started to implement a software-driven procedure that was supposed to eliminate the stacks of paper that would sometimes get lost on someone's desk. The problem was that our bare-bones staff didn't really have time to learn all of the ins and outs of the software and refine the process to be truly efficient. Basically, it was left that, so if an item was entered into an engineering change order, it was locked down so that no one could build one, but also a customer couldn't even order one, or any machine that this item happened to be a component of until the change process was completed. Sometimes this could take weeks. I tried explaining several times that if we ever had to work on some item that is used in several of our products, this would bring everything to a screeching halt. My manager at the time understood this, but could never get all of the people who needed to work on the software procedure to sit down and finalize everything. One day I was tasked with changing the design of the hardware component that was used in every machine we built. I told my manager that as soon as I started this process, no one in sales would be able to enter any order for any of the customers until the process would be completed. He shrugged and said, "Do it," knowing that I was right. Within 30 minutes of getting started, a salesman came to my desk asking why he couldn't enter an order. I explained what was happening. He left, and soon after, the VP of the company was at my desk asking what needed to be done. So I told him he needed to corral everyone needed to hash out how the software was supposed to work properly, instead of the half-assed, just lock everything down deal they left off with. He immediately called in whoever was on that list. It took a few days, as I recall, and the component in question was expedited to be approved within the week. To this day, I use this story in interviews whenever I'm asked one of those questions, like, give me an instance where you had to solve a major problem in the workplace. This is great, but the fact that the manager clearly was in on it because they were probably tired of getting the runaround and figured the only way to get something done was to throw a wrench into the works? Absolutely wonderful. Alright, that's enough maliciousness for the day. Well, that wraps up this episode of Malicious Compliance. If you liked the video, please drop a like, share my content on all of your social media, subscribe if you haven't already, and make sure to hit that bell so you're notified every time I upload, and drop a comment down below. It really helps with the algorithm and helps new people find my channel. Thanks for watching, thanks to my patrons and super thanks contributors. Have a great day and stay safe out there.